Today is April 7th, 2025, and today is the 6th day of our small account challenge. Before I get into the trade that I took today, I had promised Friday that I would spend some time going over daily charts to help you gauge probability and potential of a particular trade when a stock hits our watch list. You want to be able to use the daily chart to your advantage because it has so much information. So I'm going to start with the daily chart, talking about some of the stocks that were on our watch list and show you what I look for. Okay, this is ICCT. It was on our watch list in pre-market. Let's go to the daily chart. And since we have worked with this one a few times already, we know that it had a 50 EMA breakout on the daily chart recently, and it has been slowly creeping up. And today it started price in the $6 range, as I recall. So we had this yellow line, which was what I considered a critical level. If you look to the left, that will line up with this support and a little bit of resistance right here. And that was 680. So we had that level, then we had 820, and then we had the 738 in between. Since this 200 EMA is very close, it's probably going to try to hit that now. Today that was the goal, but we have these other lines that we respect. This price will react to those more than it'll react to this 200. So that's why we look to the left and understand, why does this line mean so much? Well, we had this high wick here, we had support here, okay, and we had a top here. So that was a critical level at $6.80, and then this was a critical level at $8.20, and then we just had this level here at 738. That's right where the 200 EMA was. That's all the move that ICCT could do today, was just to this. Okay, let's look at the minute chart and see how it played out. And sure enough, tag that bullseye. $8.20 was the high, and then it sold off, and it's actually almost 10% in the red right now. So it hit its potential and started to sell off. Let's talk about NWTG. This one was super choppy the whole way, and I wasn't too excited about this one because I didn't see news. And when I went to the daily chart, as you can see, the other day it had tried to break through the 9 EMA on the daily chart, and today it did break out on the 9 EMA. And by the time we saw it, it was, I don't know, 235, 252. I kept seeing it in this range. We could kind of see what it was doing. It was definitely a 9 EMA breakout. But the next question you have to ask yourself is, where is it going to go? Well, in this case, I had to look to the left, right? I had to look to the left to see where it was going to go. And I saw all this congestion right here. Right around 835 was kind of the middle of it. Actually started at 299, and that's why I didn't really like it after that point, but it did go to 340. You know, there's potential to 385, but you're just dealing with a lot of chop, and it's going to be difficult to work with. This just tells you it's a 9 EMA breakout, and you're just looking to the left to see, well, what is the most likely? You know, you have this level, and this level. And so that's why it behaved the way it did, because it had a lot of chop. And when you go to the 1 minute chart, it was just choppy. That's how NWTG, MESA was another one everyone was talking about, and it was a really cheap stock previously. I had this $1.20 critical level identified for the group. If you go to the daily chart, you'll see what it was doing. It was below all the EMAs. All it wanted to do was get to this 200 EMA, maybe get to the critical level, and then that's all it would do. Pre-market, it filled the gap. It went all the way to this level. On the daily chart, it was a 9 EMA breakout trying to get through all of these EMAs. And by the time we saw it, it was right around the 200 EMA, so the $1.20 critical level. Once it proved that as support, it was going to try to fill that little rest of that gap. And that's all it did, was this dashed line, which is the 140. So that was MESA, J, and VR. Now this one, we'll start with the daily chart on this one since I'm already on the daily chart. It broke out of all the EMAs, and it had news, and it was a super nano float, and it just had a lot of reason to move. Once it did that major breakout, then what it wanted to do was get above these levels, you know, this 1175 and 13, whatever that was. Once it got above that and proved that as support, there was really not much resistance. You just had this, I call this the slide. From when it originally opened as an IPO, you had this slide down. Now, I have this thick right here, this $30.60, I think it is. And that's where all the EMAs started on the day that it IPO'd. They all started right at that level. So I like to mark those because in my mind, that's sort of like a critical level. It will need to prove that for continuation. Sometimes it's hard for them to actually prove that, and sometimes it's easy. But once it proves that, it will have no trouble at all making a new all-time high. But that's why this thing is moving, because other traders are aware of this potential here and the high probability that it has. The probability is based on the fact that it had a very big technical breakout above all the EMAs, and then it held these other levels here. $13 level was the highest one that it really needed to hold, and it just did. It didn't have any trouble at all. So here we are. Here's that $30.60 level from the daily chart where all the EMAs had started on the day that it IPO'd. And look how it's treating that. If it can prove it as support, then you'll get the new all-time high on it. But see how it's not? It can't treat it as, it can't find support above it yet. It may need the 200 EMA bounce and then maybe it'll do it. I don't know. I'm not going to try to predict that. I base it on what current price action is telling me. So let's go to BJDX. That was the trade that I took. And let's start out with the daily chart, because when I posted this to the group, posted it at 5:54 a.m. and I can't even trade until 5 o'clock, but that gave me enough time to really look at this thing and plan and prepare and get in when I could. So this was the information. I felt like there was going to be chop between $9.50 to $11.35. And this 1485 somewhat critical if it gets there. So let's go to the daily chart and see what we have here. Now that we know that this thing didn't really have any news, but the reason it was moving is we had one of those technical breakouts. Price broke above all the EMAs. Okay, there was like some kind of news. It was being mentioned in Benzinga. Other than that, there wasn't really much going on. So we have a technical breakout. We have these levels that we know we need to deal with. That I highlighted in Discord. And so it was really a straightforward, we're just going to go to these next levels on the daily chart. There's no way on the planet that this thing's going to go to the 200 EMA, even though it broke out of all those, because the 200 EMA is $137. We're not going to see that today, but we will see some targets reached, even though there wasn't much news. We'll go back to the 1 minute chart and I'll show you what I did with this one. I was ready to get in right at 5 o'clock. My order went in right on this candle here at $8.34. And it was a very straightforward price hit that level. My stop loss is down here, so I stay with the trade. It hit this level. So now my stop loss is this one. I stay with the trade. It hit this level. Because this was the top of a chop zone, I decided I would just get out. My exit was $11.15. You know, like I said, I thought these were going to be choppy zones, these grade in areas, but they weren't on the way up, but they certainly were on the backside. And it's just done nothing but chop since reaching that high, $11.50. I didn't sell at the absolute high, but I got a pretty good profit on that one. So let me update you on my small account challenge. As you know, last Monday, I started this challenge with just $500. After today's trade, 1 week later, my account is now at $8,068.18. Today's trade only took 12 minutes, getting in at $8.34, getting out at $11.15. And I made $2,031 on that trade. All in all, it was a good trade. I didn't trade the big JNBR. I could have made a lot more money probably had I done that one, but this one came along first, so I took it, and that's how today went. Let me just talk a little bit about something that's come to my attention. A few of you have actually reached out with this very same thing. You're getting distracted. You find that members chat is distracting you. You're not seeing the alerts because you're only seeing the chats. But I would encourage you to just really focus on the alerts, okay? Because I'm seeing that a lot of people are complaining that they're missing these. I really have no control over what you're doing. And there is some useful stuff going on in here. Like at 5 minutes before opening bell, and I probably should have copied and pasted this and put this on the alert in the alerts room. And so I will, I guess, try to do that from here on out. But sometimes questions are asked of me and I don't have a lot of time to, double post the same stuff. Duplicate. The point of me talking about the members chat, this alert room is the primary reason you're here. The primary reason you signed up for this program was for this. Don't forget that. I will alert you in here too. For example, let's go to the one that's running, JNVR. But I alerted each time it hit a target. Each and every time. And so when you hear me say something has hit a target, come in and check. Because what you need to do is, like if this was the one, let it pull back to support and show you an entry. It hit a target. What have I taught you? Your stop loss is the line below the target. So if it's just hit a target, it's going to come back to that level and continue, hopefully. And if it shows you that it's continuing, get in. It's just that simple. If you see me post in Discord that something has reached a target, come in there, check what it's doing, check the chart, wait for it to pull back for a setup for continuation. It's as simple as that. People get frustrated with me because I don't do call outs. Well, technically I do, do. I tell you, hey, there's a potential that it may set up. Kind of keep that in mind. Watch for these potential setups, and you're going to do so much better if you focus on the alerts and not the chats. I do want you guys to use the chat to collaborate and ask questions and get clarity and help one another. But remember, you're here for the alerts. You're here for my guidance, and I post that in the alerts. So anyway, I hope this was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions, let me know, and we'll talk soon.